Taking first cut. Golly! Hello, YouTube. Back at it again, talking about the world of golf and all the things happening. We'll cover LIV, we'll cover the PGA Tour's response, and so much more. Hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribed. We'll jump into it right now. Welcome to the First Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gehman. That right there, Kyle Porter and KP. No matter where you stand on this Thursday, I think easily one of the most anticipated days of golf we've had in quite some time.
Yes. I told a friend today, it's the craziest week of my career covering golf. Okay. I think that's right. I mean, all the major weeks are crazy, as you know. But this week has felt very consequential in terms of do what?
I said that's a good word.
Yeah, just in terms of what we're doing 5 years from now. And I feel conflicted. I've got a lot of thoughts, and I have a lot of conflicting thoughts and feelings and ideas, and I'm sure you do as well.
Indeed. So round one of LIV Golf London in the books. We saw for the first time the live stream on YouTube. We got a feel for what these events are going to look like actually on the golf course. The product, Kyle, which I think is, at least to me, one of the most important aspects of this, because I'm not going to convince Taylor Gooch the geopolitical stuff. I'm not going to convince those guys of anything. So now kind of the product is important, because I think the product kind of maybe determines where this goes in the next couple of years.
Why do you say the product determines where this goes?
Because if it's a good product, more guys will go. And if it's like Firefest or whatever, I think that will stop people from going. And the more people that go, the more it will divide our game.
Here's a question. Do you think that, and we've got a lot to talk about, but do you think that if the field stayed like it is right now, like nobody else ever, well, let's since Bryson and I presume Patrick Reed have committed, throw them in also. So add Bryson and Patrick Reed and take out whatever two guys you want to. Do you think that would be enough for the LIV Golf Investments? I think that's what they're called, the LIV Golf Investments Group, to play this out for, like, let's say 10 years? Or do you think they have a desire, and the people running their league, that if they don't get the more top guys, that at some point it will shut down? What's your opinion on that?
I believe they need more guys, especially when you start to game this out for 10 years, because a lot of the big popular names on this list, they don't have 10 good years of golf left in them. And unless you're going to be replacing them, and even with top amateurs, Kyle, it is really hard, because this is not college football. In college football, right, college basketball, we know who the stars are and that they're going to make an immediate impact. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of people who could not name the colleges that a lot of the stars on the PGA Tour went to, because it's not really the same, right? There's not a draft out of college. Most people aren't following their careers in the amateur ranks. So even if they are replenishing these guys with top amateurs, I'm not sure that's enough either. I think they have to continue to pick off names.
If the Saudi Public Investment Fund is just in it for sports washing, why do they have to continue to pick off names?
Because if they don't pick off names, no one will watch. If no one watches, we don't get to say, oh, look how normal this is. They've got this golf league. Oh, they're just doing this like they did in F1 and X, Y, and Z. And they don't even get the results of the sports washing.
I think that's right. And I think I would throw in the point that Jacob made about how it's a big deal for the Public Investment Fund to be able to invite corporations over that they want to invest in and do business with. And if you don't have a Phil Mickelson to play with, or a Dustin Johnson, for CEOs of Corporation X to play with in the pro-ams or whatever, that it becomes a lot less valuable to your portfolio of businesses that you're trying to use to sort of build yourself up. I don't know, man. Like they're operating like a startup. They're almost operating like like an Uber or a Netflix. Remember the big thing with Netflix is like you spend like the cash burn thing where you just spend just exorbitant amounts of money and you never break even.
Right.
And then like but Netflix is like a business proposition. There's like economic consequences at some point. And I don't know that there necessarily is with this in the traditional sense. So it's just interesting to watch them operate as a complete startup, but not knowing if the payoff is ever like, not knowing if they ever need to be like even remotely profitable in the future. That's one of like a million points we could talk about, but that just kind of struck me on Thursday.
Yeah, and to tie that back, the golf league will never be profitable. It's impossible how much money they're dumping into it. It'll just never be profitable. But we will never know that if the amateur that Phil played with yesterday signs a $7 billion oil deal with the Saudis, now the league is profitable to the organization, to the Saudis, to their pockets. But the actual golf will never, ever, ever remotely come close to being profitable.
Right. And the scenario that you just sort of threw out there is not, I have a hard, this is becoming increasingly complicated because what you just threw out there is not sports washing. That's just business. That's what the PGA Tour does. That's the reason PGA Tour has pro-ams, is so that the Wells Fargo CEO can play with Rory McIlroy and then re-up their contract for 10 more years because he likes Rory McIlroy and wants to play more golf with them, right? Like that's how the PGA Tour runs its business. And so that's not part of the crookedness of the Saudis. So there's just like this, I don't know, man, like this one specific thing, the sports washing portion of it, and the people behind it that's not good. Otherwise, I don't know, like the product on Thursday was kind of good. I don't want to say that because I went in wanting to dislike it. I went in wanting it to be a disaster, wanting it to fail, because I think broadly I just don't think this is good for golf fans, but I actually thought the way they set it up, the shotgun start was, I can't believe I'm saying this, the shotgun start was really good. The fact that it was only a 4.5 hour round, the live leaderboard on the team and the player perspective on the left-hand side, like F1, it was good. The field wasn't great. The golf course was fine. The broadcasting was okay, but like the actual presentation of golf, I was compelled by, and I don't know what to do with that.
I break it down into two parts. I did not think the golf was all that good. I even some of the big names, I didn't think they played that well.
Right.
The guys that did play well, I'm like, who is this? Or like you're trying to sell me on is his first name Scott Vincent playing with Dustin Johnson and Phil Mickelson. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I didn't think the golf was all that good. I'll tell you what, that silly little scoreboard on the left-hand side, the entire time,
it was good,
is a game changer. Because it pivots, right? It goes down so you can see who's in 35th. You can see the guy who's in 35th and who's around him. You can see what place they're in. From my world, where I play a lot of fantasy and I bet on a lot of things, and I care a lot about top 20s and who's beating who and all the stuff that doesn't generally show up on a leaderboard. It was great. That leaderboard is amazing.
I found myself saying, if the field was better, if the course was more interesting, or not even interesting, but like just more well-known, right? Like if, I always go back to Riviera, but even like a Phoenix or TPC Sawgrass or, different places that the tour goes to. And if this wasn't sponsored by a murderous regime, that's a lot of ifs.
It's a big if.
I would be like all the way in, right? Like this is actually, I think what the presentation of regular season professional golf maybe should be. We were texting about it, not me and you, different group chat. And I said, if the PGA Tour adopted this and only did it 12 times a year, just went to all the good places, Colonial, Riviera, Bay Hill, TPC Sawgrass, and they consolidated their funds into just paying the top 40 guys, like, and everybody else. You know how in baseball, like, you make it to AAA and you're not making any more money than the guy that's in single A, right? But once you hit the major leagues, you're making like exponentially more money. That's almost how I feel the PGA Tour should run, where it's like only the top 40 guys make money and they make a ton of it. And then everybody else is just trying to get into that position. But if the PGA Tour adopted this format as its regular season, went to good courses, and had the team aspect thing, I found myself thinking, man, if I knew all the guys on this team and it was like, again, not run by the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia, I would be way, way, way into that. It felt very different than the Zurich Classic stuff. And I thought it was super compelling. I really did.
Yes, I have a lot more to talk about. I've got to hit this ad break. We'll continue this conversation, but quickly, we are going to hear a word from our partners. And we're back. Okay, KP. So can we talk about the shotgun start here for a second? Because this goes both ways. I think shotgun start in general is fine. Shotgun finish becomes a little bit different. But what you said earlier, where this whole thing lasted 4.5 hours or something like that, condensing the amount of time that players are on the golf course, I think solves a lot of the problems most of us hardcore fans have with the current state of the PGA, which honestly, a lot of it is broadcasting. Is like, you can't find the guy that you want to watch, and unless your star is in the mix on the weekend, you're not going to see it. If you only have to show 5 hours a day instead of 9, and now you can take those extra 4 hours that are very expensive to broadcast. Broadcasting golf is so expensive, which is why you don't see cameras at every single green and every single tee. It's why they don't show you every single shot from every single player, because it's incredibly expensive. If you could narrow the amount of time you needed to cover, you could save money and reallocate those things to a lot of this other stuff that I think people would find interesting.
Yeah. And I just think the idea of having, I mean, when you talk about golf, it's like, okay, soccer is an hour and a half long, right? A football game is 3 or 4 hours long. Golf is like 12 hours a day. And it's, and for obvious reasons, because you can only so many players can be on the course at the same time. But man, today was like, and maybe I'm speaking selfishly from like hey, it'd be great if it didn't take up 13 hours of my day and only took up 6 or whatever in terms of covering it. But I thought going in that my perception of the shotgun start would be like, this is so stupid. But it was the complete opposite. I thought it was cool. I thought like the action that they got to right away, it was like boom, boom, boom. And you're like, oh, this is, I was like into it right, like from the get-go right away. And I think, one thing I was thinking about, Rick, and I'd love your take on this, but you think about, like, again, think about all of this stuff as the regular season. If you look at the majors as the playoffs, like an NBA playoffs or an NFL playoffs or NHL playoffs or whatever, think about all of this stuff as the regular season. And I was trying to like think about what is compelling, and I want you to answer this. What is compelling about the NFL regular season or the NBA regular season or the Major League Baseball regular season?
Well, I think they're different. I think what's compelling about the NFL regular season is that literally every game matters. That's what I think is compelling about that. When you only have 17 games, the difference between 10-7 and 9-8 is, playoffs or not. I think what is compelling about Major League Baseball or NBA regular season are stars. In my opinion, what is LeBron doing? What is I almost said Andrew Wiggins. I don't know why that name came to my mind. I'm sure he's not. I'm sure he's not a star. But like, what is
one pick?
What is Giannis up to? Right? Like that's what I would tune into for the regular season because I don't think most people just kind of tune into the NBA starting on Christmas Day and then take it from there.
Yeah, and I think it's a great answer. And I think a little bit, and we can get into the Jay Monahan PGA Tour thing. I think a little bit is like he and the tour thinks what's compelling about the regular season is the history and the legacy and all this stuff. And I think what LIV is showing is like, no, it's just about like what's compelling is just stars competing against each other. Mm-hmm. Right. And the PGA Tour would say, well, historic courses and legacy and like all these different things are compelling. And they are, I think, but I don't know that they're, I don't know. It's almost like a shifting of like what matters in the regular season to golf. The PGA Tour said all this other stuff, and LIV is saying no. It's just like the smallest amount of stars possible, sort of contending, and it doesn't matter what the course is, and it doesn't matter what your like perceived legacy is. It's just about in the moment stars contending against each other, right? And I don't know that I don't know. I don't know which one I'm agree with more. I got to say, like, I find myself very conflicted today about how I feel about all of this.
Yeah, it's I think I said it yesterday. Like everything, we live in a world where everything people want you to have a black or white kind of opinion on something, and most things are just different shades of gray. And this is very one of those things.
Totally. And I think that, I mean, the PGA Tour has just gotten spread so thin that you've got 30 events that don't, I don't want to say they don't matter, but they kind of don't, right? And it's almost like, and people have talked about the Premier Golf League, the PGL, and the PGL wanting to partner with the PGA Tour and essentially create this LIV Golf on top of the PGA Tour, which I got to say, like, after day one of this seems like a pretty great idea, right?
They should make that phone call. They should at least have a meeting about that. I think
you can't. I just don't know that you can put that toothpaste back in the tube. And the other problem is, and the big problem is that you're just competing on inequitable footing financially.
Yes, which here's the PGA Tour's response. So basically, as soon as balls were in the air in London, the PGA Tour released their response, which is essentially saying all current and future LIV Golf athletes are no longer welcome on the PGA Tour. They will no longer be eligible for the President's Cup. They will be removed from the FedEx Cup points list, and they will no longer be able to accept sponsors exemptions, which is kind of like an interesting little wrinkle where basically, if you had a situation where Valspar was like, oh, we want to extend one of our sponsors exemptions to Phil Mickelson. The PGA Tour is like, no, that's not happening. And then basically, for the first time ever, Kyle, they named names, right? I mean, the PGA Tour has a history of never disclosing any punishments about anything, no matter the nature of it. And they listed the names and also listed who had resigned their PGA Tour membership.
Do you think this is the first time Dustin Johnson has ever been suspended by the PGA Tour?
No.
So I thought do we have the letter? Because there was a part at the end that I just didn't.
We can get it. Jacob will get it.
Yeah, I didn't think was great. It didn't feel very aggressive. It just felt like kind of a shrugging of the shoulders, right?
Well, yes, I didn't think it was very aggressive, but what's the alternative, right? Because you don't have much leverage, and also, are you willing to use everything that you have out of the gate, right? Are they holding something back? I just don't think they have that much they can actually take away from these guys.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct, and I want to pull up because I want to get the wording right. I said something on Twitter earlier. God, I can't. None of my keyboard's not working.
Got the letter on YouTube here.
Okay, so at the end he says, Jay Monahan says, "I'm certain our fans and partners who are surely tired of all this talk of money, money, and more money," which that's not good. Will continue to be entertained and compelled by the world-class competition you display each and every week, where there are true consequences for every shot you take and your rightful place in history whenever you reach that elusive winner's circle. So when Jay Monahan is saying that, he is pointing out two things. One, he's pointing out how much money the other guys have, and how much harder it is to win on the PGA Tour. And you're essentially trusting your players to make a decision based on morality or legacy in lieu of wealth.
Right.
And I just don't know, like, how many of those guys you should trust with that. How many of any of us, right? Like, again, we look at this from a very Wikipedia perspective in terms of like how many yellow boxes does Tony Finau have on his major championship page. Those guys look at it the way that we look at our jobs, which is how much money am I getting paid? What's my work-life balance and all that stuff. I think we forget that a lot of times. So when Jay Monahan is looking at his players and saying, I trust you to make a decision based on your own legacy, which very few guys actually care about, and it's actually a privilege to be able to care about, or the morality of the situation, that is not it just, is that a bet you want to make? And again, you're like, I don't know that he has another card to play other than like just begging the majors to exclude the LIV Golf events from getting OWGR points. But it just didn't feel very like, it felt very like wave the white flaggy, right? I just, that was the feeling I got in reading that.
Well, I texted you this earlier. I also think that when you start posing the question of legacy versus money, which is the way that most of these guys are looking at it, I think a lot of the guys would be willing to sell the legacy for enough of the money, right? There is a huge chunk of guys out there. Even if all the majors came together and said, you are never going to play in a major championship, you are never going to play on the PGA Tour again, you are not going to earn OWGR points, there is a lot of guys who would still say, okay, I'll just take the payday and I'll play a couple of times a year and I'll retire very early, very wealthy.
Which sucks for golf.
Correct.
Right. And I think that at the end of the day, when a lot of people have defended LIV Golf this week, and I think there are theoretically some good reasons to defend it. I do think disruption is good. I don't know that it's going to be bad in the short term, and it might be horrible in the long term, because if guys start saying like, yo, I don't really care about the majors anyway. Like if the best guys in the world start saying that, I just want to make money and get paid, then like the most important thing in golf, which is the 4 major championships, become devalued and not as historically relevant as they have been all along. And you get not only a fragmentation of the regular season, but a fragmentation of the sport at the highest level, which is you can call it whatever you want. To me, it's a huge bummer. And I think that's where I just feel a lot of like frustration, and I don't know. It just sucks that it's happening like that.
You don't want golf turning into boxing is what you don't want to happen, where there's 5 different leagues and nobody cares about any of them, and no one knows where to start. But
at the same time, like, what if you compared it to soccer? Has the implementation of like the Champions League and I don't know, there's all these different, like, I don't know all of them, but there's all these different leagues. It hasn't devalued the World Cup, right?
No.
Now the difference is maybe like the World Cup's once every 4 years. So maybe I'm talking about the Ryder Cup there. Okay. And maybe the Champions League or whatever has devalued whatever their version of the majors was before all these leagues were implemented. Go ahead, Jacob.
Well, I think the difference you're thinking of, like the Champions League players that are in the Champions League are also stars in the World Cup. So there's no brain drain effect whenever the Champions League is happening. Like that's in concurrency with the Premier League, the major European leagues, like all the national teams. So if anything, it's an argument for something more akin to what we would be thinking about between like a PGA Tour alliance with something like the PGL. If that makes sense.
You're talking about the Premier League?
Yeah. So it's like the Premier League, the Premier Golf League. So they work very hand in hand, all of those soccer leagues that you're referencing.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
So if anything, it's valued something like the World Cup more. It's inflated the value because now you can pretty much watch your favorite stars and players year round across different forms of competition.
Which that's cool.
Which is cool.
I will tell you what the gift and the curse is with this entire thing. It's that these golfers are independent contractors. And I'm all for being an independent contractor. But correct me if I'm wrong, Jacob, for the Premier League, those guys they're paid to be on a team and they can be loaned out or traded or whatever, sold to another team. But like, you can't just bop around anywhere you want to go. You're here and you're getting paid to be here.
100%. Yes. You are on your specific club team. And then you're also tied to your nationality, your national team. Right. So it's a contract system.
I almost feel like I just don't know that the majors are going to do what the PGA Tour thinks they're going to do.
I think they're going to do nothing.
Yeah. Do you think they'll award OWGR points?
I know 0% of who gets to say how OWGR points are given out and who's eligible. If I start a golf league, am I eligible to apply for, like, what are the requirements to get OWGR sanctioned events?
So there's a great article today. I tweeted it out if people want to go read it. It's on bunkered. It's on bunkered. It's bunkered.co.uk. And Michael McEwen, who is a great dude, I did a podcast with him at the Masters this year. He had a really long deal about the OWGR and about how LIV Golf has applied for OWGR points, but the board that decides is Seth Waugh, is Mike Wan, is Jay Monahan, is all these guys that like obviously have a ton of power. But his point that I thought was good, let me read it here. He said the most compelling point is surely this: the OWGR's value is diminished greatly if it is not a credible and accurate representation of who the best players in the game are. So if all of a sudden you deny LIV Golf OWGR points, then the OWGR is just, it almost is rendered meaningless because you are not recognizing a league that has a lot of the top talent in the world. And that's a very philosophical debate, but it might be what the future of golf hinges upon. Right. And I thought that was a great point by him.
Okay. So I always love these good little loopholes. So what the OWGR board should pass is basically like, okay, from the time that you apply for your OWGR points, there's like a 4-year waiting period.
So there is a waiting period, but ironically, there have been instances in the past. I think it was the PGA Tour China or PGA Tour. Help me out here, Jacob. I think it was PGA Tour China that sped up that process. So there's precedence.
It's for like a fast pass
from the PGA Tour to speed up the process.
Yeah, the PGA Tour, they might have set their own tracks as far as what could be the nail in their coffin.
Yeah. So I don't know. All of that is interesting. I don't know. I don't know what else we want to. There's a million different things we could talk about, but
a couple more things. We're rocking and rolling here. We've a ton of comments coming in. It's all good. So, there are still players listed in the field for the DP World Tour next week that are playing in London right now. I saw that. Pablo, Keimer, Pablo Larrazabal. I saw a couple other guys as well. So that's Bernd Wiesberger. So that's kind of
Sergio.
also, yeah, Sergio. So that's kind of also interesting, Kyle, because what is this? So there's a strategic alliance between the PGA Tour and the DP World Tour. Apparently, this does not extend to who we play.
Yeah, I don't know. It feels like the PGA Tour is just on an island right now, and everybody else is like, I don't know, dude. Like,
dude,
good luck.
Can I tell you what? So the PGA Tour needs to purchase the DP World Tour, like today, because I think we're headed in that direction anyway. You can kind of start like a worldwide league. You already have a strategic alliance. You could create a really cool schedule of co-sanctioned events and whatever. But I think the DP World Tour, maybe not if they let these guys continue to play, but like they could potentially be hurt the most by LIV Golf, just because those guys will definitely jump ship, and if they don't let them play, it'll be a depressed asset. I think the PGA Tour should buy the DP World Tour tomorrow and not let these guys play. That's the only. I don't know what other strategy they have.
But what does that gain the PGA Tour to buy the European Tour?
Well, it does a lot of things. It allows you to continue to have a foothold on a larger worldwide stage. It allows you to stop. It also allows you to put up protections against any other leagues that want to come in and potentially earn OWGR points. Like the LIV Golf guys are going to earn OWGR points from the DP World Tour that is going to put the PGA Tour out of business.
Say that again.
The golfers who are currently playing on
You're right. Yeah, that's right. Man, I just can't help but going back to like the PGA Tour has already messed this up. Right? They had an opportunity to partner with the PGL and basically create this entire thing. And I think that, like, I mean, are we headed for? It's been 18 holes of this, so we're like, we're on tilt, you and I, this week. Are we headed for a world in which the top 48 guys in the world play in the LIV Golf League every year and play the major championships, and then the PGA Tour is sort of the secondary league to that? And it's like you have relegation. I mean, this is exactly what the PGL is like proposed to the PGA Tour. The difference was it didn't have this, like, the linchpin or the X factor in all of this is the fact that the Public Investment Fund has unlimited amounts of money to throw at it. And I don't know that there's anything that the PGA Tour could have even partnering with the PGL, as much money as the PGL claimed it could unlock. I don't even know if that would have kept Bryson from going for $100 million, DJ going for $125 million.
You're absolutely right. Do me a favor, Kyle. We're getting static from either your headphones or your mic right now. So we'll get that. Either drop out and come back in, or we can switch mics. We'll get that all sorted out. But to put into perspective, that the fund that the Saudis use for this is a $600 billion fund. It's 400 times what the PGA Tour's revenue is in a single year. I mean, it's just absolutely massive. Trying to get into a battle of money with the Saudis is not going to end particularly well. Kyle, give me like a mic check.
How's that?
That sounds better, right, Jacob?
I put my headphones back in. They died.
So, so the problem is going to be, and I think, you know, we've known this was coming for a year. We've known this was coming for 18 months. I don't know what it is. The PGA Tour created a PIP and increased the purses.
But like, are they? And I got this question. I played in a golf tournament on Monday, and somebody was like, "Are they emptying the coffers, right? Like, are they providing their stars with all the money they possibly can?" And I don't think they are, but I think they're getting close. And so, when you have no more money left to give out, what are your options? Like, is creating a team event in the fall really going to keep Bryson from going to get $100 million from the Saudi Arabian government? No, of course not. And so I just don't know, like, I don't.
There's got to be something, right? They can't be helpless here. What realistically, with what we know about the PGA Tour, and it cannot be. Obviously, finances are not going to get it done. What? There has to be something, right? Anything?
Do you think if the Saudi Arabian government came in and told Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady and all these guys, we're going to triple your salary? Like, what if the Saudi Arabian government came in with the NFL makes what, 15 billion a year, 14 billion, something like that, and they said we're going to create $100 billion league? That would be the end of the NFL, right? There's nothing they could do about that.
That's true. Yes, that is true.
And so the problem is, like, what if, and I was thinking about this today, what if the Saudi Arabian government is like in 2027, they're like, you know what? We've kind of gotten all we wanted out of golf. Like, we're not super interested in having a golf league anymore. I think the LIV Golf League is over. Then what? What's going to happen then? Because when you don't have a business model other than like just endless supply of money, then you don't there's nothing holding it up. It can be ended at the whim of like one person. There's no infrastructure.
Right. Correct. Right.
And
if Jay Monahan didn't exist, someone else would step into his place. If MBS says, "Hey, I don't want this to go on anymore," it's over.
Right. And that's just like, I think that more than anything as a golf fan feels it just doesn't feel great. It feels very tenuous.
What's next? Obviously, 2 more rounds of LIV Golf. There's going to be more names. We know some more guys are going for Portland in a couple of weeks. The PGA Tour maybe played everything that they have. I mean, do you think the PGA Tour is willing? So my wife was asking me about this, and it was kind of just like, well, why doesn't the PGA Tour just do exactly like all this stuff, but not be funded by the Saudis? Like, why don't they just?
Because it's not all the stuff that matters. It's just the money.
Right. And also, I do think, like, is the PGA Tour willing to? Like, if they announced tomorrow, hey, we're going to do shotgun starts, we're only going to have 48 player fields, we're going to reform this whole thing, wouldn't that look like they were just like they're conceding? They were, I don't know. Like, are they willing to reform, or would they rather just be put out of business?
But what is what is the reform? Like, I don't know, man. Like, the
reform is massive. The reform is what you described. It is basically where 75 golfers or less have a tour card, and all these other feeder leagues are feeding into that. Or, hey, listen, you've got 48 events a year. 24 of them are with the big guys, and the other 24 weeks are everybody else vying for other spots. Like, the reform is massive.
Well, and I think the reform is not to get the Dustin Johnsons of the world back, but to retain the Cole Hammers of the world. Right. Because if you, I would be interested to know, and I don't know, there's probably not a way to know this, but if the, like, legitimately, how much has the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia allocated to this league? So the PGA Tour's revenue for this year is, I think it was estimated at 1.5 billion.
Correct.
If the Saudi Arabian government has allocated $10 billion to LIV Golf for this year, I don't know what their number is. And none of it is coming. I mean, some of that is coming via revenue. I guess some people have bought tickets, but they don't even have they haven't even sold their broadcast. I don't think YouTube didn't pay for that, did they?
No.
And so it just is like the amount of revenue that the Saudis are bringing in, which is essentially just their pool of money, it just dwarfs everything that the PGA Tour could possibly generate. And I just don't know what you're going to do about that. You do. I think you're right. I think you do have to, again, copy this model that has been presented to you by the PGL And maybe you just coexist. Like maybe the PGA Tour and the I'm getting all the names mixed up. LIV Golf just coexist, and then everybody gets back together for the major championships. And like, is that a future that I want to live in? I don't know. I don't think it is. Yesterday I would have said hell no, but again, soccer does it. You know, they have all these different, like they've got the Spanish league and the Premier League and all these different leagues that coexist at a really high level that remain interesting. So I don't know. I feel very kind of lost in all of this. I don't even know like what direction to go in or what to think about all of it.
And I'm sure that'll change multiple times between now and, for at least for me, tomorrow and the next day and the week after and months from now. So obviously we'll continue to see, because this is, and just to put a final bow on all of this, this does feel like an important time, right, Kyle? Like I think like we're in a moment. I don't know how the moment's going to turn out for anybody, but we're in it.
Yeah, we are. I mean, 100%. And I think that you and I think took it pretty seriously all along, right? Like we had other people that we do this podcast with that were kind of dismissive of all this. And it's like, wait a second, guys, wait a second. But then I got a little dismissive when they wouldn't announce a field, and like, it just felt very amateur hour. But I got to say, the last 24 hours, it's like, this is the real deal. And it's not going anywhere, again, unless the 2 or 3 people that are controlling it say it's going somewhere. And it's just it's a bigger problem for the PGA Tour than I imagined it would be. And I would imagine that they feel the same thing right now.
Yes. Well, I can tell you for sure, we're not going anywhere. We'll be first cut podding basically every day, as we always do. So we'll see how it shakes out. We'll be back, obviously, again on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We'll eventually talk some more PGA Tour golf as well, because we've got one of those events going on. But we're in a moment, so we are taking it accordingly. Big thanks to producer Jacob, does all the hard work behind the scenes. Kyle Porter is available on Twitter at Kyle Porter CBS. You can find me at Rick Run Good. This has been The First Cut. We'll catch you next time.